Oh, 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 will you always be there with me, baby? Oh, hi.
Hi, how you
everybody.
doing?
Hey,
How are you
everybody.
doing?
How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Everybody's doing something.
Oh, we always kind of, you kind of in the mood and whatever, and you were just jamming to some Mariah Carey, so
Hey, it's my 90s kick. I haven't been in a good 90s kick the last week and a half, like I told you, Scuba, for reasons good and bad.
90. You know what? I mean, it's not bad music.
Well, not bad music, just because of a passing that happened this week. Iconic rapper in the hip hop game.
Yes. DMX.
Yep.
Passed away this week, as well as the Queen's consort, husband.
Yeah. Husband, cousin.
Just a couple months shy of 100.
Just he almost hit that century mark. That is a 99 is still an accomplishment.
Hey, you know what I've been telling people for a while when we get into thinking about our grandparents, our parents, our grandparents, when they get in, after they get to that 88, 80, 82, and every year after that, that's just more time to enjoy their company and to,
sit back, relax, and enjoy what you've accomplished.
Everything.
Yeah. May's like,
Mayflower's like, what just happened? Well, Mayflower, it's Tuesday. It's Scuba and The Ry. This is Steve Scuba, of course, Ry Guy, here for your weekly dose of reviews, shenanigans,
and whatever
odds and ends.
randomness that I can think of at the time, or you can think of at the time.
It is what it is.
It
So
is.
We're just gonna do it,
people. Yeah. Enjoy it all.
So, a couple of things right off, real quick. We're gonna go and transition our music around.
Get it back into the current, away from the 90s for a little bit.
There's nothing wrong with the 90s. 90s were a lot of fun.
I grew up in the 90s, so it's very close to my heart. So,
Mr. Rhodes, thank you, sir, for your pledge over on Patreon, sir. I just received
Rhodes.
that notification. So thank you.
Namaste.
Welcome to the Patreon crew.
Welcome to the funness.
Give you that shout out right off the bat.
Aroo for you.
So yeah, it's Tuesday. It's us. A couple of quick things. First off, a shout out to Sirenscape. Great source of background music for your tabletop experiences. We use them here on the podcast as our background because we do talk about a lot of games, and what better thing to have nice little ambiance. We're kind of doing the relaxing in the tavern, so to speak, today.
Relaxing and sipping on the drinky drinks.
So if you want to know more about Sirenscape, go to Sirenscape.com and check out their online player as well as their incredible catalog of soundboards and background musics you can use for your tabletop experience. Prior to that, we were listening to Stream Beats, which is DRM free music you can use for your streams or videos. Check out streambeats.com for more info on that. A couple of quick scheduling notifications. Of course, this Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we will not be doing an episode of Shadow Watch. I have to go to the dreaded and horrible place that is called the Department of Motor Vehicles
Dun,
to get some
dun.
work done. And as I'm sure we all can attest, going there is just probably pretty close to being in purgatory because you're waiting there for a long time.
I think Purgatory is a lot much fun than
Well, I mean, we're planning to get a lot of stuff done. I'm going to try and get my real ID so I can start traveling domestically.
Yep.
Got to have a car that we need to register. We need to get registered, and my son is going to take his second attempt at his driver's permit. So we will see how that goes and whatnot. So yeah, all the fun. All the fun.
Oh yeah.
So with other than that, we are still planning to do Challenge Accepted at 8 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube. So if you want to mark that down in the calendars to come back, check out. That is live Dungeons and Dragons fun with myself as your humble and benevolent dungeon master and a group of rather interesting characters as they start exploring Saltmarsh and what may or may not happen in a dwarven mine, because dwarven mines are safe and charitable places. Sunday mornings is Sunday with Scoob. That is a weekly show where I hang out paint miniatures, and just kind of chit chat. Ry tends to jump into the voice chat to hang out with me, and we talk about all kinds of random things. My moderators are welcome to jump into there, as well as all of my cast members are free to jump in. And when I get some VIPs that want to jump in, they can certainly do that too. Also,
Yes,
certain
sir.
tiers of our Patreon are allowed to do that. So if you want to find out more about that, head over to patreon.com/Scuba Studio if you want to consider becoming a patron to help us keep delivering this awesome content that you might be enjoying. And if you are enjoying, please hit that little like button, hit the subscribe, and hit the little bell notification so you be notified when more videos come out. Also, feel free to leave comments in the comments description below. Keep all that stuff feeding the algorithm. So, take out on the road. Yeah, I definitely want to get out traveling. I want to get a new bike. I miss having a bike.
Hey, bikes can be fun.
Oh, Harleys are great.
Vroom, vroom.
Harleys are great. I love it. I had to trade my Harley in for a Jeep. Not that I don't mind. I can go topless on the Jeep.
Yes, you can. Topless in a good way. The wind and the warm weather coming, so it's going to be nice.
Oh yeah. It's going to be glorious. Absolutely glorious.
What I like about the warm weather, that my moonroof comes open. Feels nice.
That's cool. A couple of things on the docket tonight. We got 2 movie reviews we're going to be chatting about.
Hi.
You know that moment when you're on stage and there's something that catches your eye off stage and it just cuts the entire conversation as you turn and look at who's
X marks the spot, people.
What are you looking for? Oh, they're on that table right there on the other side of that light. You're gonna have to come around and get on camera.
I don't want to break the camera.
You'll
You're
be
not
fine.
gonna break the camera.
You'll be fine. Come on around. It's right there. Be sure not to trip over the wires.
You got it. There you go. Tippy tippy toes and toes at tippies. X gonna give it to you.
All right. Yeah. So we got a couple movie reviews to talk about tonight. Some progress in some games and state of game, as well as some stuff on D&D topics. Got an interesting one I'm going to kind of roundabout on. It is determining milestones when in progression of the story for the players. Had a couple interesting experiences with that recently, and kind of want to share my thoughts on that and have a discussion with Ry and his take as a non-player. And feel free in the chat to jump in on that too. And then, of course, we have odds and ends. So without further ado, let's get into our first part, which is our What's Up? What we have been doing, what has been going on in the last 7 days.
I don't know.
Since we were here chatting. Ry, let's start with you, my man. What have you been up to in this last week, other than the perpetual pragmatism of school and that graduate program?
Well, the graduate program is, getting close to the end of semester, and anybody that goes through college, when you get towards the end of semester, it becomes the stressful time of year. So, papers, projects, exams, depending on what course you're taking. But for me, I've been working on an independent research study project, and that's bringing a 21st century teaching technique to the writing classroom. And I put together my handout. It's focused on bringing fandom into the classroom. So the whole focus is students are fans of things, and a way to incorporate the knowledge of the writing is to bring their fandom, aka example Harry Potter, into the classroom, and then using that to relate to the different genres in writing, creating forum discussions, creating community blogging, etc., etc. That's just a couple of the highlights from my project.
Which is interesting because you get that a lot in tabletop, especially when you get into the RPGs, because we're all fans of something. We all incorporate those things into our narratives for our table games, whether it's a reference for an obscure character creation or a setting setup. I remember, I remember hearing when I was watching Silver and Steel that Bronze Girl had said that she used Monster Hunter as a lot of inspiration for her encounter setup. I have been thinking a lot of the way Uncharted aspects things, and recently, because all the time with Horizon Zero Dawn, I've been trying to incorporate that. So what are some of the theories you're getting with the whole incorporating the fandom into the classroom?
Yeah, well, through a lot of my research, it was focused on trying to find ways to empowering the students. And one of the ways is incorporating choice. And through that research, it centered on fandom because what I came to find out is that the students like to write, like to do things, but if they have a topic of their choice or an interest of their choice, and a lot of times topics and situations in the classroom are very arcane and just aren't, gravitating to the students. So a lot of the research I found is that these outside like writing mentorships and workshops and students don't realize that they're doing a lot of writing in different forms. So like say like fan fiction or stories.
Classic. I'm sure we all have thought of some
things.
of that.
Another thing can be, with all the social media, creating blogs, creating posts, creating all those different kind of things. So I thought it was a good, since it's very relevant and vibrant, it was a good 21st century teaching technique to bring into the classroom.
Well, I mean, like, what would be a good example? Like, okay, Harry Potter in the Revolutionary time. How could Harry Potter help during the Revolution? Kind of deal?
It's teaching. It's just teaching them. Okay, let's focus on Harry Potter, and then you create like a notebook where you're writing, you're building up an idea and focus on a genre. Say like an opinion piece.
Okay.
So you're gathering your ideas about Harry Potter, and you're starting. You write about how Slytherin is better than the other 4 schools or something like that. So it's getting them, invoking that idea of passion, but connecting it to the techniques of the writing.
Oh, so you're talking about, okay, write an opinion piece, and of course, it's like, all right, what do I write an opinion piece about? And then from there, it's okay, how do I set up the various perspectives to lean that toward a particular opinion? And you're saying, well, incorporate, hey, if you're a fan of Harry Potter, use the elements of the Harry Potter universe as your to frame your opinion piece.
Yeah, so not the opinion piece is just one of the plethora of different writing genres out there. You have personal essays, you have all the different ones, poetry, prose, just connecting all the different techniques in writing, but using that topic, aka Harry Potter, as a way to get in.
I saw something in the chat and I feel I have to respond to that. That is one of my moderators, Mayflower, has passed her permit test. Yay!
Yes,
Congrats. That's a good thing I live about a mile away, so I don't have to worry about her hitting me on the road.
Oh yeah, put up the bumpers things on the side.
I'm kidding. More scared of her brother driving than her. Anyways.
Touche.
Moving on. So what else has that been the majority of what you've been up to?
Oh, that's part of it. Other things that I've been, doing. Well, the weekend's been chilling. Playing games, catching up on shows. Getting in a lot of working out because I signed up for another 5K event in May. So going to try to, build up my endurance for that. Easter Sunday was a weekend ago. So hit up a couple places. Went to my aunt's house and then also to my best friend Crystal's house for Easter Sunday. Other than that, just been kind of just trying to, work-life balance between the busyness of work, busyness of school. When I have that free time, I just kind of just want to settle my mind down and think of other things. So
that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
And lots of food, because I'm a foodie, so I like going to random places. Nothing new, just random spots. But just to know, this, Egg Bistro, right here in Greenbrier, they opened up their 3rd location over near us in Haygood. So I want to take my parents there so they can get it. I love their breakfast. I love local restaurants, so support local, people. Support local.
Yeah. Local's always good. Let's see. I've actually got a few things I've done. Probably the more interesting things is last is yesterday actually. Went out with a old coworker of ours.
Yes.
And went out to the local wildlife refuge, Back Bay Wildlife Refuge. Took my daughter, went out, met up with him, and because he got into searching for seashells on the seashore. So we walked the beach, and I got about 1.25 miles walking on the beach yesterday, which was fun. And then today, probably the bigger thing is today I went over to one of the malls, which has a lot of which doesn't have a whole lot of stores left in it.
Yeah, well,
and I stood in line for a little bit, and I got this little nifty card, and so I stood in line, I talked to a Navy corpsman, and then I got this little card and was sent on my way. So yeah, I've got my.
Speaking of old compadres, one of our friends is in the chat.
What's up, Mr. Quaglet? So, but yeah, I got my first vaccine shot for the COVID vaccine. Yay!
Yep. Your mutant X gene activate yet?
Josh.
Sorry, Alexa, you're not activated.
No, that was Siri. That wasn't Alexa.
Siri? Okay.
That was Siri. But the funny thing on this one is when you go to get it and they tell you when you should come back for your second one, mine says the earliest date I can come back is May 4th. May 4th. And I'm like,
isn't that your birthday?
it is. It's Star Wars Day and it's my birthday. So I don't know if I should be happy for this or not.
Well, you'll be fully in tune with the Force that day, so it might help.
It might be. Well, the Bad Batch will be premiering on Disney Plus, so that'll be fun too.
70-minute opening show, which I'm excited for.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. But met up with him and actually going to be I actually pulled out my disc golf stuff.
Okay.
It's all ready to go, and I think we're gonna go to one of the local parks. We were supposed to go disc golf last Sunday. However, it was the thinking that it was going to be raining all day. Turns out it didn't rain at all.
Yeah, welcome to Virginia.
However, it did rain a couple of days prior, and that particular course we were going to, I remember distinctly that if you go to it after a heavy rain, half the course is underwater. So it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, I'd probably skip it for now.
But then today it was he was hitting me up and said, hey, have you gone to Northwest River Park, which is a park, another city park that's near me? And Ben there is like, well, I went disc golfing there like 4 years ago, and I thought the course was a little rustic, I guess, compared to a couple other places, but it's been 4 years. Maybe they've done some work to improve it. I don't know.
Who knows?
So I should be disc golfing again on Sunday, which would be nice.
Yeah, disc golf is popular around here. I do see a lot of people at the one at Bayville over near Shore Drive a lot.
Bayville's a fun one. The Northwest seems a little more overgrown than Bayville, but we'll see. Of course, I hadn't thrown discs in a couple of years, so it might be a little rusty. But my friend, our friend was like, yeah, we're gonna track our scores all summer to see how we improve. And I'm like, yeah, right. I'm not looking forward to that.
Hey, well, stretch them arms before you get out there. Who knows?
Oh yeah, the man who got us all into the sport is sitting there. He hasn't been throwing much. Okay.
Well, good inspiration. Good way to lead, Mr. Craiglet.
Well, I know if I go visit him, I'm definitely bringing my golf bag.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of good food down there, so save a spot.
So yeah, so it was that, my COVID first shot vaccine, and all of that. So, and of course our games Saturday. It was all the fun. So that's pretty much what I've been up to. It's nice getting out and about again, and just kind of this whole being stuck inside. I did register for my VCLA test, so I will be probably trying to take that test here probably next week. Take that, and then I'll move on to my Praxis 2, and we will see how that goes.
Hopefully good things.
Yeah, you're right, Craiglet. You're right. It was G.
Yeah, it's always.
It's always G. He instigates everything.
He does. He's always an instigator, but that's what we like about him.
Fair. That's legit. Alrighty, so I think that's it for our What's Up. We covered our announcements. We covered all those things. Ready to dive into our reviews?
Yes, let's go.
Dive in and chit-chat about reviews. Got a couple of movie reviews for you.
2 for you people.
Oh yeah.
Eye on the prize.
So we're gonna kind of do this in a different order. Our first review is going to be a recent one that just came out on Netflix
Yep.
called Concrete Cowboy with Idris Elba.
Yes, sir.
Ry, take it away.
All right, Concrete Cowboy, like Scuba said, is a Netflix original, and it's a real-life drama that centers around urban cowboys. You might think that's an oxymoron, urban cowboys, but there is actually truth to the tale. What grounds you to the story is the relationship between a father and a son. Cole, played by Caleb McLaughlin, is a young man with no direction. He's hit some hard times living with his mom in Detroit. His mom decides, heck, I can't do this anymore, so he takes him to live with his father, Hart, who's played by Idris Elba in Philly. The film is, it starts off with the typical kind of teenage angst with a estranged father. So you have this dysfunctional father-son relationship that brings you in quickly into the film. But what grounds you to their relationship and you watch the growth of the father-son dynamic is through the core element of these urban cowboys. So what this is based around is the urban cowboys from Fletcher Street in Philly. And what they're trying to do is preserve the history and lifestyle of the black cowboy, which has been lost through the ages. But through that, you get to watch this clash of cultures between this young kid who doesn't know anything about Western and horses and camaraderie. He starts to develop this like fraternal relationship with these group of individuals, which starts to create a very authentic, grounded appeal to the typical predictable growth of a kid with no direction trying to find his place in the world. So through his interactions with trying to, clean the stables, understand why is there a horse living with him in the house with his dad, that kind of unorthodox situation actually starts to bring them closer. It starts for his father to understand his son and his son to understand his father. So that authenticity in the very unorthodox method makes you enjoy most of the film. And then as this story continues and Cole's trying to find his place in the world, it starts to introduce additional subplots which are very much a fixture when it comes to the city lifestyle, when it comes to kids that are caught with the wrong crowd, and it gets mixed up with some kind of a drug subplot and another side character, which kind of causes the father-son dynamic to get pushed aside and creates a very convoluted structure on unexplained circumstances and unwarranted character choices. There was already a predictability to it, but you were drawn in by the real characters and the realness of the people. But once this side plot and other stuff kind of infiltrate the story, it just becomes way too obvious on what's going to happen. And then it does take a downturn slightly, and it starts to become more melodramatic, and the climax just gets watered down to what it could have been.
All right.
But overall, it was mostly enjoyable.
Mostly enjoyable. So, not... So what was the most unique thing about this film?
The urban cowboys. The fact that they actually highlighted the culture of what you come to find out is that in a lot of the urban cities, there's actual cowboys. Black Americans are trying to preserve this actual history of the cowboy heritage that ties back many years to black settlers. Mm-hmm. And watching that and them actually having the urban cowboys in the film creates a more authentic approach, but it's kind of something that you expect from a film that's produced by Lee Daniels. He always likes to ground you into the film. He did a movie not too long ago called The Butler, which focuses on the butlers in the White House, and you still feel that authenticity in it, but it's just the additional stuff that kind of pulls away from the story that kind of creates a little friction and a little kind of like
So aside from this being a one of those self-discovery pieces, or finding yourself for this, as far as the kid and reconnecting with an estranged parent, the really interesting thing about this is an aspect of our society that is kind of on the decline.
Yeah, in a way.
And bringing some attention to that little niche
Yeah.
within the communities.
Yeah, that was what makes that father-son dynamic and the self-discovery that much more appealing.
Oh,
Because it creates, you connect with the kid and you're like, okay, he's this untamed horse in a way, and through learning discipline and interacting with its people, he starts to find his place. And I like the fact a film does not have to be original to be good or great. It's just you just do a little bit of twists and turns, a little bit of dabbling the paint here.
well, I
Just to
mean,
create
how
something fun.
how many years? I mean, we've been seeing films for well over 100 years.
Yeah.
So, original ideas are few and far between.
Yeah.
But it's looking at the review. I mean, you gave this. What was your rating after in the end?
Overall, if other than the watered down latter half of the film, it still is enjoyable. I gave it a 3 out of 5. It is on Netflix. I definitely would recommend watching it. It is a very good drama, but 3 out of 5, theater discount.
Well, I mean, it sounds like it's good. It's just sometimes it's hard to sell those kind of journeys of self-discovery.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where because you know what's going to happen, it doesn't have that impact as much, and I think it's just because of that extra stuff that gets injected into the film.
That's fair. Let's get on to the main event, shall we?
Boom! Main fight. What's up?
Let's talk about Kong
Kong.
versus Godzilla. Did not have a show last week because I really wasn't feeling that well, but we're going to spend some time. We're going to talk about Kong. Now, I've watched this movie twice, but I watched it on HBO Max.
Yes, sir.
Right, you saw it in theater, and you watched it on the
IMAX theater.
IMAX. So, let's talk about this first. Let's kind of go over if you haven't, in case you haven't seen it or whatever. Let's get Ry's take on this throwdown that we've been waiting for since Godzilla King of Monsters.
All right, so Godzilla vs. Kong is what you expect. It's the epic fight of epic fights, and we get to see in this film the Alpha versus Alpha, Godzilla versus Kong.
50 years
Yep.
since their last outing.
Yeah, 50 years, so that means there's only been 2 matches? Give or take. Let's center around 2. But, so this film centers around Godzilla and Kong and their fight, but what brings them together is a mixture of a lot of randomness and other different things in the film, but that's all hearsay.
Convenient plot devices, I believe is the phrase.
Oh yeah, so what happens is that Kong is still on Skull Island, but he's in a human confinement there, and Godzilla is raging against an industrial complex known as Apex. And through some convenient plot devices, like you said, they have to get Kong to a safer place. And because Godzilla is an alpha and he senses another alpha, that's when insanity ensues, because he just doesn't like the guy. Pretty much. That's pretty much, it's a, I don't like you, I am God, you are going to deal with it. A
lot like what he said. It's like you get these are the top tier predators, so to speak. They're going to clash as a matter of establishing dominance. This is just nature. So, but this story has got some elements. It leaves. I mean, world building aside.
Yeah, world building
is actually really good in this one.
Yeah,
you just don't get a lot of the details. I mean, there are some elements in the world building on this that's just absolutely wild.
There is a I'm gonna start it with by saying we all expect when we go to the cinema a good story, colorful cast of characters, a worthy escape. There are times when basic genre tropes and simple writing and unexplained plot devices and generic human characters can ruin a film, but there are always once in a while where there's a film that comes along where it knows what it is, delivers what is expected of it, and that's all you want. And that's what this film is. The film, it does have those a lot of the cliche sci-fi elements, the secret agencies, one-dimensional archetypes, all this like elusive science fiction stuff, but it's all about connecting it to the main event, which is Godzilla versus Kong. They plug it in, they explain it, and then they get to the main event. They plug it in, get you to a point, expand on the lore, but the expansion of the lore is what makes you care about the film, because it makes you care about Godzilla and his rampaging against Apex, and Kong trying to find his home. His whole point, I think the strongest part of the aspect is Kong's connection with that little girl. And with that, you actually feel the character of Kong.
Well, I mean, that's something we can go into, because real quick, let's get that. What did you give this for a review?
Overall, I think it delivers on what it is expected. It didn't try to over explain things. It just set things in motion to get to the important parts. Once you get to the ultimate arena, Alpha versus Alpha in Hong Kong, it was the greatest thing I've ever seen on the screen. Overall, 3.5 out of 5 in Matinee.
Okay, so covered that out of the way. Now we can start really nitpicking this.
Okay, nitpick.
We've had a couple of weeks. We've seen it a few times. We can work on nitpicking this. So FYI, here's your verbal spoiler warning. If you have not seen it yet, you can go check it out in theaters or go check it out on HBO Max. But let's talk about this a little bit
All right,
more.
spoiler now. All right. Take it away, Scoop, and I'll trail behind.
What do you think is probably what would you? One of the things I feel that is the strongest about this one is the pacing. Now, I had issues with Godzilla King of Monsters because I felt it went too fast.
Yeah. A lot of the things that people were complaining about the two Godzilla films, not much the Kong Skull Lion, but at least the two Godzilla films, was the pacing. And one of the major things is they tried to over-explain the scientific dynamic of what they were introducing. And the more they tried to explain, the more crazy it got. Where in this film, they didn't try to explain the sci-fi elements as much. They just planted it. So you have the Hollow Earth, where all the Titans are from. So that's the theory. So the thing is, they want to get Kong. Apex hires a person to get Kong to go there because they want to get a certain energy to develop a deterrent against Godzilla, aka Mechagodzilla.
Yeah, which we knew was coming, and that's something we're going to talk to in a few minutes.
Yeah,
but what I'm talking about as far as pacing is we give each one of them screen time.
Yeah.
And maybe not necessarily them, but their particular stories as they weave from one interaction to another. Team Godzilla and Team Kong, each of them are getting kind of an equal amount of screen time.
Yes.
Which is really nice because you're bouncing back and forth between the two, and then at the end they're coming together, which is great. Yeah. But I think one of the things is you really have an arc for Kong. You really have a story for him. But maybe this was intentional, that Godzilla is just there as a force of nature to deal with.
Yeah, and that's one of the great points about the film is that, as I mentioned before, you feel the characters, you feel the CGI creation of Godzilla and Kong, because they actually focused on it. They paced it between back and forth, and they allowed you to see this force of nature against this human-like creature who's just trying to find a place for himself. And Godzilla just shows up to just mess things up, and Kong doesn't like it. So yeah, the pacing is great. It's very tight. So Adam Wingard, he knows exactly what to do. He does enough editing where you focus on the fight, you focus on the CGI, on Godzilla, his purpose, focus on Kong, his purpose, and you have these simple expositional moments in humans that connect it. So, which
is nice, because in the other one you had so much more time in Godzilla King of Monsters. You had so much time dealing with the human characters. You did not give enough time to the kaijus until just like a little bit here and there. Yeah. Whereas this one they did the reverse. You had spent a lot more time with them on the screen and not so much time with the human characters on the screen, other than to help, I guess, move the plot along, so to speak.
Yeah, it helped move from point A to point B. They come in, they explain what it is, and connect the dots on what's coming up, and then fight ensues.
Which is nice. And we get to introduce some new characters to the mix.
Yep.
You already mentioned the young girl who apparently is the last Inui who is that that group of people that lived on the island
Yeah.
when we saw them in Kong Skull Island. But and this is where the world building is nice, but also leaves a lot of questions. Like I really want to see some of the companion material if they ever release this. Like, okay, what happened on Skull Island between the 70s and the aughts?
I think they
They
did
never explained
they
that. They
never
just said
explained
a
it.
storm rolled in and wiped out the indigenous population, and somehow Monarch was able to build an enclosure around Kong.
Yeah, that's one of those. That's one of those like items in a film where, that could ruin the film. But in a film like this, they just plop it in because the whole focus is on the monsters. So you're not worrying about over explaining. But it would be good to know further down the line, an extra.
Yeah.
But for this particular, film, it would have done what it did to the other films, trying to over explain all that stuff and stretch it out and lower the pacing.
Oh, trust me. We've seen a recent film where pacing is over exposition can really kind of take forever. But huh?
What? What was that, Ryan?
Yeah. What was that? Was that another movie that's on HBO Max?
No. Is it on HBO Max?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about the Snyder Cut being sometimes taking a little too much time in exposition.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of something else, but yeah, we both were thinking bad.
Yeah. And this one is like, you have the two of them, you have their things, and it ends on kind of an open note, and then of course, and when I watched it the second time, I had a buddy of mine who was a real big kaiju fan, and his gripe was Mechagodzilla. And after watching it a second time, I have to agree, Mechagodzilla is kind of a weird thing where this is too much CGI and are you trying to go on an element of realism or practicality versus mimicry? Because I mean, with some of the things from the original Mechagodzilla from the 70 Toho film is he looks a lot more like Godzilla. This Mechagodzilla looks something about him doesn't look quite right, but he is a really cool character. I think it's the aesthetic of how he looks versus the impact he had on the story, because there were some really cool moments. I'm not going to spoil them for him. You got to go check it out.
Really great moments, like when Mechagodzilla.
Really great moments, but I think it's the aesthetics of how Mechagodzilla.
Yeah, that didn't really bother me, especially watching it on the big IMAX screen, because once it gets to that scene, it's already ramping up and your adrenaline is pumping, so your whole focus is on Mechagodzilla going toe to toe with Godzilla, and you're just kind of there.
Do you think that might be something with the difference between the different screens, like when you're watching it on the IMAX and you're just huge screen you're looking at versus a home TV kind of deal?
It probably could be, because I didn't notice that on the big IMAX screen, because when you're in the moment, in the theater, in the moment with that big screen and the surround sound, you're just caught in it, and it didn't. I mean, you could tell it's CGI creatures, but because of the clarity of the IMAX screen, you could not really tell.
The cinematic, the experience of seeing them fight in today's technology is amazing, because it feels like if you were to watch like a fight scene in where all human characters and the way they can move the camera into how the fight goes, you get that same level of detail and choreography in this, which is again, we're talking mocap, we're talking CGI, we're talking so many things go into this. It's amazing, and you feel like you're just all in that fight. There was even one scene where it was like, I think we commented, as like, there's one sequence of shots where it's like, yep, that's the next Universal Studios ride is literally following that sequence, rolling through, which is great. I mean, the movie is a lot of fun, and there's a lot of story with Kong. All the stuff with the interaction. I think he has a more developed story.
Yes, he does.
And I know some people would argue that they would like to see a more developed story with Godzilla, but I think looking back into Godzilla's whole premise, he was always supposed to be kind of a force of nature. It wasn't until later films that it was okay, let's make him kind of an anti-hero.
Yeah.
But he's always been kind of this representation of nature,
Yeah.
specifically nuclear development, whether it's the nuclear bomb testing and its effects on the environment, or all these other technological advances and whatnot. He is supposed to be a force of nature. So I'm not feel bad that we don't get a lot of story development, unlike what we see in like the cartoons from Hanna-Barbera way back in the day, or some of these other ones where you're trying to give him more personality.
Yeah.
I feel he's got plenty of personality in this film.
Yeah, with the lack thereof actually prompts him, because like you said, he's a force of nature. So when you show up, you feel his presence. You feel it's like no matter what you're gonna do, he's gonna find a way to get on top.
Oh yeah. I mean, and this was totally like when we look back at the original time they fought, the decision was made to make Kong the clear winner at the end of that film. In this one, this one is a little bit more of the understanding that, Godzilla has a few things stacked against Kong, but Kong has tenacity.
Yeah, he has that thought process. Like, he uses his environment to his advantage. And when he's building that axe,
Yeah, he's got the axe. Isn't it convenient that the lighted circle happens to be Godzilla? I mean, that's another plot thing, but it's a great kind of film. And that whole, some of the bits with Kong in the fight, you really kind of feel it in there, and feel his tenacity.
Another thing to note, which you probably picked on, is the humor in this film is like it's on point, and it catches, and it's perfect humor because it's not forced in there. It just kind of happens at points.
Tap or no tap.
But yeah, it's prime popcorn fun entertainment. This is the kind of film that is a great way to rejuvenate that experience back at the theaters. And it was great to see the theater full to a degree, and actually being able to live that experience again that I haven't been able to live in the theater for almost way over a year. So, this is actually doing great strides in the theater business right now. So,
yeah. So, I mean, with no surprise to anybody, it's been the #1 film for 2 weeks in a row.
Oh yeah. So, and
it's drawn in near $100 million. So, yeah, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
To get a good popcorn movie in after all of the shenanigans, which is great.
Yeah, it showcases that this is the kind of film, people will go see.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a testament to the marketing, because it had a great trailer. How many times I've watched it? Like 52 times? I don't know.
Soundtrack's great.
Yeah,
the mocap and all of that is amazing. If TJ Storm did Godzilla again, dude, props, my man. You definitely know your trade and your craft. I'm impressed.
My favorite moment in the movie is when Mechagodzilla turns.
Oh,
when he actually breaks free.
Don't go any further. You have to go check that out, because that whole sequence
I'm just gonna say
is amazing. It's amazing. Best
death ever.
Yeah, and the dislocated shoulder and popping that back into place, amazing. Oh, yeah. Absolutely amazing. All right, well, we did that. Go check it out. I posted links in the chat. If you want to check out more Ry reviews, go to ryreviews.com, all one word. Check out all the various reviews that Ry has done.
Right, Greg.
Feel free to comment in the comment section below if there's a film you'd like to hear us chat about in the future or revisit in the past. It's all good. Let's move on.
Moving on.
Oh
yeah.
Alrighty, so next up we have our state of game, where we chat about various games we're playing in the game and where we're playing them on. Video game wise, for me, to quickly get that out of the way, is I have been doing nothing but Horizon Zero Dawn. I just dinged level 54, going through the Frozen Wilds expansion right now. It's a lot of fun. Look, kind of feeling the Skyrim vibe. I don't focus on the main story. I focus on all the side stuff, and I think I love the most about it is the fact that I can just walk out into the wilds and kill hours just wandering around collecting resources.
That's what's so great about that game. Wandering and just, enjoying the environment. But speaking of wandering,
What have you been wandering around doing?
well, I picked up a set game on the Switch called Animal Crossing New Horizon. So,
I'm surprised you're here with us tonight. I've
Yeah,
heard that game just sucks people in and never lets them go.
I was thinking about bringing my Switch over and just playing it till it was time to start the podcast.
So were you working on your Danny DeVito island or your Spirited Away rebuild?
Oh, there's no rebuild. I'm making a unique spin with my island, slowly and surely, gathering resources, building things. But, it's actually, even though you are a ball and chain to a raccoon because of debt sky high, it's actually kind of relaxing because you just kind of go around, collecting resources, building things, interacting with the characters. And initially when the game started, I felt it was kind of boring because there was not much to do, but it's one of those, it's a resource gathering game. So
Yes.
the more you do, the more that unlocks, the more you can venture out. And the more I ventured out and started adding stuff into my house and building things and planting things, it's a lot of fun. It's just relaxing. So I haven't gotten too far. We've gotten the museum up. So I've been donating, fossils and animals and stuff to there. So traveling to other islands, getting other resources. So once I start building it more, I'll get into it a little bit more. But it's fun. It's just relaxing. But, you're held tied down because of debt. So, hey, raccoons, you got me.
Maybe you need to share your island. People could come over, help you get that debt to that raccoon worked
Oh
out.
yeah, it's shared out.
Make this a community make a community
Help
support
my
thing
guy pay off his debt.
in Animal Crossing.
Yes.
Alrighty, what's the other game you're playing? Because
The
I
other
gotta see a
game
second
is-
one here.
Yeah, there is a second one. As everybody's known, I got the new Xbox Series X. It's not too many new games, and I already beat a lot of the games, Cyberpunk, Assassin's Creed. So waiting for that new DLC for the Assassin's Creed. So until then, I decided to return back to the good old Wild Wild West with Red Dead Redemption 2.
Alright, so did they upscale that one for the Series X?
I don't think it upscaled, but it does look dang pretty on that system. But
Alright, so there is so when you look at it, there isn't like a Series X bit on there saying it's been new, but just natively with the capabilities of the hardware, it looks better and renders better.
Is that whenever you're booting up a game, which I've noticed, playing the new system, is that even if there's not a download to upgrade it for X or S, it does resync the visuals before you start playing the game. So it up converts, how DVDs up convert on a Blu-ray.
Yep.
So it does that. So it does look mighty dang pretty. But the game, like you said, I just love roaming the western, the open west. So you're just out there hunting, fishing and stuff. And the great thing that I forgot, I haven't played this game in so long, but coming back, is that it's very, very grounded, very realism. And then the great thing is that there's actual consequences in the game when you're doing things, say, aka robbing or pillaging or whatever you do. There's actual consequences. Like, I went back to the old town that I was in because I'm pretty far in the game now, and they remember you. They remember what you did in that town. So I'm walking past the bar, and then there's these two stragglers. I was like, I remember what you did. You ruined us. So they come chasing you down. And I was like, I'm trying to get away from them. Then they pull out their pistols and want to shoot
This
me.
isn't like Westworld where it resets every day.
No. It's an actual Western. So, and I took them out. But the great thing is the random encounters. So you could be like riding, and then there'll be somebody that, their horse died and you need to take them back home, or you need to help somebody. And then when the great thing is that after you help them, if you run into them again, they might help you. So there was this black guy who got bitten by a venomous snake. I gave him some help, to help his leg. A few hours after in the game, I'm going into town, and the guy's sitting by the general store, and he's like, hey, I remember you. You helped me. Go in the store, get something. It's on my tab. So I was able to get something fancy in the store. The encounters can be funny, whereas in the same town, when I'm walking past the gun store, I hear this guy screaming from the basement, help me, help me. So you need to get me out of this basement. And then it allows you. So what I did, I went into the gun store, robbed him, but I didn't rob him of his goods. I told him to open up the basement to let the guy out. And what you come to find out is that he made this guy be his man-child because he lost his son a long time ago, and this guy looked like his son, so he chained him down there and had him pretend to be a young boy. So yeah, random encounters like that can be fun. And then I told you about the one on Sunday. I don't know if I can talk about it on here.
Better not. Probably not.
But it involved a group in the woods, and I didn't like them. So what I did, I killed them. So that's how you have it. But it's
Remember,
great.
this is all in the video game.
This is video games. If you ever watched a Western, that's what you're playing. And it's what I like about this game is the groundedness and the characters. It's such a character-driven game that the realism is. It would not work if it wasn't as realistic as it was. So
That's fair. Fair.
it's fun.
Alrighty.
Yeah, it did. It looks pretty on PS4 too.
Yeah, PS4 is really pretty games. All right, so quick recap on the D&D front. We had Shadow Watch last Saturday. Shadow Watch and challenge accepted. Shadow Watch has got their first shard of day, and now they're going to be taking on the next part, which the party has decided to go and tango with a dark elf house that had moved into the area. So imagine that's going to be fun. Challenge accepted had finally arrived in the city of Saltmarsh and are going to start working their way through the next module in Saltmarsh.
Uh-oh.
But both parties leveled up. And here's the thing is trying to work out some things, because way I do level up and several other people is they should try to go with milestone versus XP. If you look at the XP system, which you can look at any RPG video game and understand how the XP doesn't change. Defeat next number of creatures, you level up. Milestone is a little trickier because you want the pacing to go with the story. Now, I have two different things here with that, and a problem I was having that I'm trying to work out through now is Shadow Watch is level 8 characters, so they could take a beating and they could dish it out.
Okay.
And one of the things a few of the players were having questions on, and some things that brought to my attention, because I had planned for them to get to, it's like the story said, it's like you have to get this shard, this shard, this shard, complete that, you're good. And it was like trying to decide, okay, where, and each shard's a milestone because there are 3 distinct sections I have to deal with. The issue I was having is I was trying to make it difficult in world setting wise for them to get from shard to shard, but in doing so, if it seemed like I was taking forever to give them a level, whereas with challenge it seemed like I didn't give them a lot of combats, but what felt like the thing is what feels like a good thing for story and what feels like a good thing as far as how many encounters, because encounter balancing and encounter building for level progression is really difficult, and a lot of people can struggle with that. And trying to see is like, okay, what determines a good milestone in a story? Figured that out. Figured chat about that a little bit. I was thinking that accomplishing certain goals, but is good milestones because that's what they are. But it's the balancing how many getting to that goal versus how many different encounters do you have between starting the path to the goal and the goal. That making sense?
Yeah, starting the path to the goal and then the actual goal.
So
yeah, you need a starting point to get to the goal. So what event could trigger to lead to that point?
Yeah, and then versus like, okay, well, because pointed out we had several encounters where if you ran the XP for all of those encounters, it would have been 2 levels worth of XP.
Yeah.
Yet they didn't get the goal. So how balancing that? So it's trying to go with like a narrative writing, or thinking about it as like, okay, if you were to write this as a novelization, where would you put certain milestones and certain challenges?
Okay. So if you're on a journey, if I were to write a journey, you would have to create a point of conflict to trigger to get to a goal. So it would be like a subtle event where you say like an item got stolen, or something happened to your family, or in the case of, let's say, like a romance story, somebody lost their wife, and it triggers them down through a journey of trying to rediscover themselves. And then they might, if I were writing like a romance story, wife died and this guy is downtrodden, and then a few years later they discover they discover a letter left by the wife to time to move on and find a place in the world. And you're traveling, and then you travel to, say, like a beach town, let's say Daytona, and you're going down there and you find, you meet new people, you gather, an idea, and you decide to open up a food truck there. And then you start, learning about the community and stuff, and then eventually you meet somebody, and you start to rediscover yourself, and it leads to the goal of fulfillment with this new person. And you return back to that same letter from your wife, and yeah, that's how I would do it if it was a narrative of a story.
So where are the milestones in that narrative?
The milestones would be first coming to terms with the death. The next is finding that letter. Next is actually, moving to a new spot. So, going to a place unknown that you're unfamiliar with, a fish out of water kind of story. So you want to move to a different spot. I was reading Glenn's stuff. I got distracted. Yeah. So you would move to a new spot so that when you go to that new town, there's a lot of, like Glenn said, there's a lot of different side quests. So you're trying to gather knowledge of the community, build the relationships in the community, and then once you discover, certain factions in the community, then you decide to join one, and then you build up your skill level set through that, and then you start to learn the hierarchy. I'm turning it away from the romance now because he said side quest, so my mind went.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you look at trying to thing, and this is a thing that to for anyone who's looking at dungeon mastering or has been dungeon mastering, it's probably relate is like where to determine what are good milestones.
Yeah. So
for the story for challenge accepted, for instance, they started in this new town. They met. And from the time that they met, then there was the moving in, and then it was this one encounter, and then they start traveling from where they met to where they're going to start their adventure.
Yeah.
So it was this whole. It was the points in the story is like they meet, they go and do one encounter, and then they go do another encounter, and then they're traveling, and And it seemed like it made the most sense that once they completed the traveling, that would be a good level up. Because there wasn't a lot of combat, it was a lot of RP. Now, flip side, let's go to Shadow Watch. They got their task, they traveled, got into a big fight, traveled some more, met up with a group of people that needed help, helped them, and then traveled up to meet up somebody else and help them. And then get into a big fight. Along the way, they got into several smaller fights. And then got back to the second group they were helping, and now they're going to move on to their third task.
Yeah.
So breaking that down, and this is where I kind of weighing the pair, we ended the calendar year on a major fight. I really should have, and this is the shoulda, coulda, woulda, I will, hindsight 2020.
Yeah.
Reevaluate. I should have had a level up at that point because that was that turned out to be a much larger milestone than originally thought it was going to be just because it was so involved and everybody was so taxed in one sense, but they were more taxed later in their next big battle, level boss kind of battle. And it is one of those things is trying to balance when's a good milestone, and then shifting to be okay. How is how is your group progressing through, are they getting some major moments that you feel should be that kind of milestone thing?
Okay.
So just food for thought kind of thing on balancing milestones and your stories.
The milestone just has to be an event that actually changes a character in some way, or
Yeah, it has to change the direction of the, I'm thinking it's more changing the direction of the story and more and changing the character.
Yeah, so you're going on a journey, so you hit the milestone would be a pivotal moment where it would change up the purpose of the journey, where aka the group might have to split up to get around to said point, and then once they get to said point, that splitting up is where they find new things to help develop them once they get to that point, the next point.
That's a good way to look at it too. I kind of like that one.
Maybe the encounter actually doesn't have a win-win situation. It kind of faults them into falling into into a different area where they have to learn that new area through interaction with that community, and then eventually make their way back, and then using those new knowledge and skill sets or items that might help that next major milestone that levels up.
Good food for thought.
Yep.
Alrighty. Well, if you have thoughts on that, please feel free to leave a comment in the comments section below, and see if we can revisit this later. It's kind of an interesting thing to talk about. I'm sure it's kind of an interesting balance, especially when you're not going off of a full-on published module that tells you, hey, when you complete this, level up here. Or you complete X, Y, and Z, level up there. When you're writing more of your own kind of paced story, you have to kind of think about these things. Otherwise, people could start to revolt, and that is never a good sign. managed to appease the natives at this point. Bad pun. I'm sorry, but that's the beauty of taking this learning process and sharing these kind of conversations with all of you. But let's get on to our odds and ends, and then we can call it a night.
Oddies and endies.
Odds and ends.
Boom.
Alrighty. So, Odds and Ends is a collection of internet stories that we find that we talk about and give our opinions on. If you're curious about the various articles that Ry finds, in our Discord, we do post all of the odds and ends stories that we are considering. The challenge out there for the community, if you're on our Discord and want to join our Discord, should be links down below, is join our Discord, and in the odds and ends channel, you can throw an emoji up for how you feel an article is. The articles with the most emojis are going to be ones we consider. Additionally, if you are of a certain Patreon tier, you can submit articles for consideration as well. We actually do have a community submitted article today, as well as the articles Ry has been pulling, and a number of them that we don't get to, but it's open to have conversation about as well. So with that, let's talk about our articles. And our first one is going to be Sony.
Sony making deals out there.
Sony has gone into a multi-year deal, multi-picture deal with Netflix for exclusivity on the releases of Sony films. Basically, what's going to happen is starting in 2022. Sony films, once they get out of the theater cycle, will have an 18-month exclusivity on Netflix. 18 months on Netflix once it goes through and gets to the release stage to streaming and video.
Oh yes,
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, Sony is probably looking at, Paramount has their streaming service, Warner Brothers has HBO Max, Disney has Disney Plus.
Which is an interesting discussion, because we have HBO Max for 2021, is the movie comes out in theaters and it comes on HBO Max
same
for
day.
30 days. Same day and for 30 days, and then it stays theater and goes through that theater release cycle. Disney is looking at doing something similar, has been doing something similar with their Disney Premium, and then they releasing in theaters. Paramount has said that they're going to give it 45 days from theater launch, essentially, before it goes up on their streaming service.
Yes.
Sony is going with it goes through the entire theater release process onto DVD and all that. And then when it comes to streaming, it will be on Netflix for 18 months before it
Yeah.
goes to any other streaming platform. And Netflix is obviously really taking up on this deal because Netflix has been losing content left, right, and center because each of the major studios is like, hey, I'm going to do my own streaming service. I want all my content back.
Oh yeah. It's not. Yeah, Netflix has been losing licensing rights, but they have been preparing for that day for a while because they have a plethora of deals, aka like this one, that are not only North America bound, but they have a lot of exclusivity rights beyond into foreign markets as well, and a lot of original content. But focusing on the Sony deal, this is a win-win situation because Sony has a way to get a market share of their movies, and then Netflix has another big catalog of films that they can put up there.
Yeah, because Sony is obviously going to release some of their older properties.
Yeah.
Now we do want to do a PSA on this. So this is not going. There are a couple of movies this deal does not include, and that is going to be the new Spider-Man, No Way Home, and the next Venom movie, Let There Be Carnage.
Yeah.
Those two films are not part of this deal. However, as we see in this graphic, is Morbius, Uncharted, and Into the Spider-Verse 2 are all going to be a part of this deal with Netflix for once they come out of the theater cycle. So,
yeah, it's really great because even though you're not going to get the new Spider-Man movie or the new Venom movie, you still have access to the previous ones. And also, with their catalog, Sony's got some films in their back catalog that might be fun revisiting, like the Men in Black series, Jumanji, True Romance, Resident Evil films, if you like them films, and Bad Boys. Just to name a few.
Yep. Alrighty, story number 2.
Numero dos. Let's go ahead into the tech world.
Let's talk about Best Buy.
Best Buy.
We've spent the last year being in lockdowns and pandemic and not going out to the stores and stuff. Best Buy has noticed an increase in purchasing of home appliance and small electronics. So much so that they have decided to find a way to compete with Amazon by creating their own subscription service.
Yes, sir. What does it include?
It's about $200 a month. It's going to be a limited number of stores as part of a rollout. But the idea is you have extended return time, concierge tech support, a couple other things that
free shipping without minimum orders.
Free shipping without minimum orders. Yeah, okay.
And exclusive sales. So Best Buy, they do give sales and they do give perks to like Silver Rewards members. So it sounds like they're gonna up that with even more exclusive sales.
I don't know about that one.
I think it's a good way to market, because Best Buy has been, they see where the market's on with Amazon, with their with their Prime model, and then Walmart has their Walmart Plus. So this is another way to get out there because a lot of people are, doing a lot of online shopping and stuff. And then if you give, a worth to want to shop at the store, then it'll just maintain over and, build up a stronger base.
I'd be curious to see. I don't shop at Best Buy all that much, so it's probably not something I would do.
I shop at Best Buy a lot.
I know you do.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be able to go over there for the curbside pickup is kind of convenient.
It is.
But I guess we'll see how this goes. This is going to be a limited release at the start.
Yeah.
I think it's only like 60 stores are going to have this option.
60 stores.
So this seems like it's a store-by-store thing as kind of a test program. So we'll probably stay tuned to see how this goes. And if it decides to move forward or not, we will be sure to comment about it later.
Yeah, but
words and things.
Yeah, words and things.
All right.
It definitely will help the competition with that, especially with the free shipping.
Competition is good. All right, story number 3.
Numero 3.
Let's talk about Microsoft and let's talk about backwards compatibility. Microsoft is really pushing their the article is titled "Why Game Preservation is So Important to Microsoft."
Located in GameSpot. Should it put it in the chat?
So it's this one was an article that was basically talking about how Microsoft is how when if we look at it, when PlayStation 2 came out, it could play PlayStation 1 games. There was that backwards compatibility.
Yes.
When the PlayStation 3 came out, early models of the PlayStation 3 had backwards compatibility. Then PlayStation eventually phased it out. And now all the way up through for PS5, there is no backwards compatibility, except for a few limited cases. But even so, it's not really backwards compatibility. It's kind of an emulation of the old stuff.
Yeah, it's like, here's the package of the games that you can play, and that's it.
Yeah, Nintendo kind of does something similar with their storefront. Microsoft, on the other hand, has really invested in making games from all their previous consoles available to continue to play. And with their moving into their xCloud and their Game Pass platform, the fact that you can buy the latest stay on the latest console and still be able to play games from the original Xbox.
Yes, sir.
And because some of these are really good stories that not everybody's had a chance to play, and let's play those really good stories. Let's revisit those really classic stories. I mean, just look at all of the stories that are in this image right here. Psychonauts to Halo, Battletoads. We won't talk about Battletoads. Forza. I mean, all of these things that you can play, and the fact that they range a whole variety of consoles, and that you can bring them all back. And now in with their Game Pass and with their model they're going with, they're trying to hold on to being able to allow people to play all of these types of games, right?
Yeah. What this is, it's the people over in Xbox have an understanding where it's not a profitability thing, but it's a whole idea around video game preservation, which I did a huge research project on it a while back. But what they're doing with this is that they want to preserve the legacy of those games, where not only once you move into the new system, you can go back and enjoy not only what you played, but you can bring it into new generations of gamers who have never experienced, say, like the old, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, Jade Empire, some of the old Halo games. And what they mentioned in the article, it's all about, preserving the history of the game so that the continued generations can understand where their current enjoyment came from. But it also is more about, the fact that it's not just an emulation, it's a backwards catalog and capability of playing not only Xbox One, Xbox 360, but the original Xbox games, because there's a lot of great games up there that can be preserved, and then some that can be up converted to the new system. So
I mean, look, we're getting the Mass Effect series getting all up-res, which I'm kind of excited about.
Yeah, but that's what what they're developing with the Series X and Series S, is that it's all about bringing all the old up to the new and continually having a place to preserve that legacy of games. So,
alrighty. So, story number 4.
Numero 4, back with Netflix.
Now, to start this one off, there's a thing rolling around Twitter right now, or if you type looking for your GIF, type in the year you were born and see what kind of GIFs come up. Now, my year happens to be a year of 2 really cool things as far as geekdom. Number 1 is the year the Alien by first released with Ridley Scott. So yeah, that's gotta suck for somebody. And with Alien Day coming up, I'm just pointing that out. Number 2 is when the first Gundam animated show came out.
Dun, dun, dun.
Now, 40 years later, we are getting a live action Gundam film, but wait, this is going to be coming exclusively to Netflix.
Boom.
It's a joint collaboration between Netflix and Legendary Pictures, and it's going to have the director of Skull Island at the helm to put this together.
Yeah, this is a very it's one of those when I mentioned earlier about Netflix building connections and reaching out to other people to get content. Seeing that they are reaching out to develop a live action version of Gundam is very awesome and creative. it creates, content for not only the new generation, but it makes fans like us want to see it. It's very they're very mum on the project. They don't know if it's going to take place in the main Universal Century where the original Gundam is set,
Well, it's
but
gonna
they're
be one of
bringing
the
in play.
offshoot
Yeah,
stuff.
they're it is a collaboration with Legendary Entertainment, like you said. The director of Kong Skyline, Jordan Vogt Roberts, and then writer Brian K. Vaughan, who did a couple Runaways and The Why Last Man. Um, what this does is that Netflix is willing to get really willing to take the risk to bring in content for their place, but also it shows that a willingness to take a chance.
The bit about this article that seems interesting to me is the fact that is the working with Legendary Pictures,
Yeah,
and the fact that in their distribution is they will not be Netflix will not be distributing this in China.
no, they're not.
Legendary will be handling the distribution in China. And I think that's an interesting thing, and I also think it's interesting how quickly Legendary was willing to want to work with them, because Legendary is obviously a little upset right now because Godzilla versus Kong was WB decided to sit there and release it on their streaming as well as in theaters, so there's a revenue loss there.
Yeah,
Netflix was willing to buy the distribution for Kong versus Godzilla for $200 million, and Legendary and Warner Brothers was like, no, we're gonna do this instead.
yeah. It's one of those things where it highlights that Netflix is willing to give pay the bang for the buck and allow the studio to do what they need in certain markets, and it highlights some other things that Netflix is doing by getting other content onto their platform, like the live action Cowboy Bebop series coming soon, the next season of The Witcher, all the investment in those video game animation shows, and one that's up your sleeve. They purchased the rights to the Knives Out sequels.
Yes, that'll be curious to see.
So it's just that willingness to give the monies to the creators and let them go.
So stand by. So looking forward to seeing how this goes. And our last story for tonight
From the community.
from the community is we want to point out that while supplies of the PlayStation 5 are currently still a little limited,
Very limited, people. Trust
we do
me.
want to point out that they have announced their next software. They have their first major software update is coming out, and some of the features in the software update kind of make me scratch my head.
That made me chuckle. I'm not even gonna lie.
That's fair. So, Ry, take it away. And what
Yeah.
was so comical about this?
Okay,
Update?
other than some of the interesting tidbits, which was enhanced controls and personalization options, and social features with cross-generation share play between PS4 and PS5. The one thing that made me chuckle was the fact that it is allowing PlayStation, or Sony is finally allowing the PlayStation for storage expansion and management. Not only just management and expansion, but allowing for other compatible external USB devices. So aka you can purchase a random external drive and plug it in there after this update. That made me chuckle.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've gone the stance of, okay, if it's not on the hard drive, it can't run the game.
Nope. It's got to be authentic to Sony, but there's other systems that have not been doing that. Microsoft. But it's kind of funny that it took them 2021 to allow me to purchase a Western Digital and just plug it in. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I
mean,
can say about
they've
that.
gone through 2 or 3 generations that could utilize this, and they didn't. There was USB ports on the PlayStation 2. So we got 2, 3, 4, and now 5. And you could use external storage. Now, don't get me wrong. You could use external storage to store things like movies on.
Yeah.
But you could not play games off of that. You could not pull the game off the external storage and play it on the main device. Now, this is like you could store the games there. You could download the games there. You still have to kind of shift them around from from where the article's reading. So it seems like it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But that's kind of interesting. And then some other stuff. I like the idea of the they have that
Cross generation.
cross generation where it's like, oh, okay, like if you if you and I are friends and I've got this PS5 game that you want to play, I could let you play it remotely or pass you the controller virtually from my console to your PS4 and you could play the game, or we can chit chat and be in a party and play or while we're playing on PS4 or PS5, which I think is kind of cool. It seems like a really great idea. It seems like it has a lot of potential to kind of share the love of certain games to those people, and maybe to, like, if somebody's, say, on the fence about upgrading their console, you can be like, hey, check out this version of this game on PS5 and tell me you're not going to love it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, this is a PS5 thing, and it's because of what they said. The PS5 games are supposed to use ultra high speed SSD hard drives, so that's probably why they took a while to send out this update. But hey, it is very limited for sure.
It's limited, and I mean, who knows? Maybe some peer pressure from other people in the industry will get them to kind of modernize a little bit more.
Oh yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Yep, and that's all our odds and ends for tonight.
Sounds good to me.
Alrighty, well, thank you everyone for checking us out and watching us. And if you stayed to the end of this, you are awesome and amazing, and we love you and appreciate you because you're awesome human beings.
Yes, you are.
So tune in with us next week, 9 p.m. here on YouTube for Scuba and The Ry, where we talk about all those games. Reminder, thank you to Sirenscape for the background music and soundboards we've been listening to. And now, as we're in the winding down, we will shift back over to the stream beats, DRM-free music that you can use for your videos and streams. I want to shout out and a thank you to the moderators in the chat. You guys are amazing. Thank you for keeping things calm and crazy at the same time. Thank you to Ry for spending yet another night over here hanging out so we could do this podcast. Thank you in the chat for hanging out with us, keeping the chat lively. Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, here on YouTube is going to be Challenge Accepted. The party is in the city of Saltmarsh. They have been asked by the leader of the Dwarven Mind to help them with a Duergar problem, so we will see how that plays out. Yep. Sunday with Scoob this Sunday. Probably going to continue working on some Warhammer miniatures. I want to get those I want to get that army put together and get some of that stuff worked out. Thank you, everyone. You have a wonderful week. Stay safe, stay safe, be safe, and we will see you on our next stream. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Peace. Yep. Scott.